Hello everyone, welcome to a new educational video for KGT indicators. This video is specialized to educate you about KGT and of course to tell you how to use KGT, and especially with the new version that I updated, of course, with those signals that it simplify, of course, the results. You don't have to think so much about the results. It's already, of course, clear if it is bearish or bullish, or even if the signal itself it is invalidated or not. And that means, of course, it might be the opposite in this case, not bullish, but of course, continuation towards the downside. So we're gonna explain, of course, all of that, and I'm gonna do this in details. So first, what is KGT? I would like just to explain what is exactly this indicator, what it does, and why KGT is different than any other indicator that you might have. It's much more precise, I would say, and it gives you a precise live price action, because the platform here that we use is HBAR. Of course, it is an aggregator platform, which it collects data, of course, from all exchanges, and it collects, of course, the volume of the sells and the buys per second. And this is a very, very helpful things to have, of course, during trading, live trading, if you are really interested, especially in scalping, because for scalping, it is the most important is to get, of course, accurate data, and of course, to be very fast data, because of course, trading view, for example, you can have per second data, but it is the price action, but it's not the collection of the volume and of the results of the volume that you might get, of course, per second. This is the difference between them, and of course this is where the CVD comes in. This CVD is, of course, something that you get the cumulative volume, and of course you get the delta of it. It means of the results between the buy and the sell. And this is exactly what this line here that you see, of course, is the collection of the CVD data from all exchanges. Of course, it depends which exchanges you add, but for me, of course, I use for KGT all exchanges almost for that they provide the coin at least in the market, because of course any exchange, it has its own customers. Maybe they have ways, maybe they don't have. You cannot really rely on one exchange. Like, for example, I will take the strongest, Bybit or Binance, for example. Nobody knows. Maybe another whale will go to another exchange, and a Kraken, for example, and he will just, I don't know, dump millions of Bitcoin, for example, or buy millions of Bitcoin. So that would affect the price, whether it is on Binance or Bybit as well. Yeah, so who buys on Kraken, of course, is gonna affect the price also in Binance and in Bybit. So you cannot really say, okay, I'm just gonna rely on one exchange, and that's why KGT, of course, collect most of the exchanges per time. Per second, I would say, and it gives us, of course, the universal price for all the exchanges almost that they offer the coin itself. Of course, some coins, some exchanges doesn't offer the same coin and so on, but of course, this is already set up inside, of course, KGT for each coin. So this is what is KGT. This is the definition of it. This is what it does. Of course, it gives us, of course, CVD's delta, or the accumulation of the volume between the buyers and the sellers. And of course, it gives us the results. Now, how, of course, the results, it has to be shown, of course, basically between the price and the CVD line, which is, of course, between divergence and convergence. Of course, when we see divergence for the bullish here within the price, we are then expecting something to push for higher. But when we see convergence between the sell signal and the price, meaning following the same direction, meaning, of course, we continue bearish. And this is exactly what we see here, the reference point starting from the top, and we have a bearish signal giving as well exactly from the top, and we saw, of course, this massive push towards the downside here. Now, when we had, of course, lately, let's say the reference of the bullish here in the low there, and you got, of course, the price, it took the low, and of course, therefore, even if you're gonna have a correction here, which is exactly what happened, It is invalidated. It was already invalidated since it was in the low, by the way. It gave you already an idea that this is going to be corrective and it's coming back downward. Therefore, when you see invalidation, you don't have to think about it. Of course, it's going to push higher. Of course, everything will push higher correctively and then will push back down, of course, when you see invalidation. When you see bearish, definitely this is the direction. When you see bullish, definitely it's going to be the direction up. Yeah, and the reference point is the point where you are, of course, or the indicator is considering the calculation of the CVDs, meaning the divergence, all the conversions as well. So this is how the things works. Now, in the previous version, it was like you have to check the CVDs by yourself between the signal and the price line. But currently with this update, it gives you already the results by itself, if it is invalidated or not, or is still, of course, perfect to push higher or lower. So for the long term, and for the short term, meaning you can use KGT in both strategies. If you are mid-term, long-term, you can use, of course, this simple 3-minute chart here or 3-minute time frame, or even the 1-minute time frame as well. As you can see, I open it in tabs, of course, each time frame, so I don't have to reload the things every time, because also, as this is an aggregator, if you reload many times here, the platform might block your IP address for a few minutes and then it comes back normal. But yeah, preferably, of course, do not reload so much, of course, the platform and overwhelm it, because it's an aggregator. Again, it's not a simple platform that it plot only the price action. Yeah, so basically, as you can see as well, for example, on the 1-minute chart here, if we are trading SUI, for example, on the 1-minute chart, we are looking at invalidation of bullish. So definitely here you want to continue bearish, and of course here after invalidation you have to wait a little bit for the correction is done, and then it has to continue, of course, bearish, unless of course the price will take the high here and invalidate the bearish. Once this happens, of course, you will get invalidation, but it's very, very rare to happen, you know, when you have, of course, this setup. So this is your midterm, this is your day trading setup that you would like to check every day. For example, in the morning you check what you have as a signal, and you can simply just follow the signal by itself. Yeah, so if it is invalidated, okay, today is bearish, let it be bearish. If you have something, of course, as already bearish, so also you take it as bearish. If it is the opposite, bullish, for example, then you take it as simply bullish. For example, this is, of course, a much more lower time frame, but I would like to show you what do I mean, for example, with the bullish, because sometimes, of course, it shows you something bullish, even on the lower time frame. Yes, here we go. So as you can see, the reference point here is in divergence with the price action. As you can see, it gives a bullish signal where we saw, of course, a push toward the upside here, and of course, invalidation for the bearish. So that means, of course, on the very low time frame here, we are still, of course, a little bit looking for higher prices. And currently, of course, it is still working somehow. It might push toward the upside since you didn't get any kind of a signal there. That means the bullish is still working here. Yeah, so we might take the high again for higher prices here. So yeah, this is how it works between bullish and bearish for the mid term and the long term. Of course, if you are a very long term trader, and I mean with it here more than daily, yeah, so if you want to put a weekly investment here, so it become investment, of course, so you can use the 5-minute chart here. The 5-minute chart, of course, it shows you also a bigger overview of what is going on there. So this is our top here for SUI, and this is a big correction that we saw. So if you get already a reference here point with the bearish, of course, you want to take the bearish, and so far you still have the invalidation on the 5-minute, for example. And that means, of course, we are still looking for lower until we get a bullish signal. Yep, so this is how the things works for KGT for the midterm and for the long term. For the long term, I would say use the 5-minute chart. Yeah. For the daily trading, use the 3-minute and the 1-minute chart together. Yeah. So just to confirm each other, you can follow the the signals. Yeah, sometimes the 1 minute is bullish, sometimes it gives you invalid still on the 3 minutes. So better, of course, to follow inside the price. The more you go deeper inside the price, the better, of course. So yeah, always follow the smallest time frame. But of course, if you are in a mid-term strategy or long-term strategy, you need to use, of course, between the 1 minute and the 5 minute time frames. Now, if you are scalping is totally something different. But of course, KGT is an awesome indicator that you can use it for scalping as well. As you can see in my trading, of course, while testing the scalping here, you can see, of course, all my trade are almost in green just because of KGT. Now, of course, you still can get one red, of course, small loss. It's fine. But of course, I would say 99% it is a success here for KGT. I have, of course, did this many times and many days. And of course, before giving you, of course, here the idea about KGT. So how to use it for scalping strategy? Of course, scalping strategy first is not something that you can use if you are not I would say, professional trader, not professional even if you are not really strong enough to handle stress. Okay, because scalping, it involves a lot of psychology, it involves a lot of up and downs, and you have to be, of course, very careful with it. So for the scalping here, I would say for the scalping, you need to go always from the 1 minute to the 5 second chart. So you need, of course, those time frame, 1 minute, and the 30 second, for example, chart, the 10 second, and the 5 second chart. Even for me, I use the 5 second chart, another one. Yeah, so double time 5 second chart. I'm gonna explain why. So let me put the second 5 here. So I put them just like that. So this is a 5 second time frame. I go to the CVD option here. I put the look back to 20. Okay, so by default, normally it is 500. So this is where you can see, of course, what's going on exactly on the 5 second. For the first one, I put it 20. Why? Because I want to go very deep in price when scalping. Okay, this is the first thing. The second thing, it is also 5 second setup here, but this one I'm gonna keep it 500. Okay, I'm gonna keep this at 500. The second one is the third one, I would say, is 10 second. Yeah, so we're gonna keep all of them 500 from now. And of course, the fourth one is 30 second here, also 500 look back. So you don't need to change any of them. All of them should be at 500. But only the first one, which is 5 second, you need only this one to get really deep in the price. Yeah, so this is exactly how I set up my KGT first in the morning. Of course, if I want to start scalping here, and of course, I start to put them, of course, in a layout, of course, from the 1 minute to the smallest one. Yeah. So basically, you start to estimate, right? You start to estimate from the 1 minute chart. You start to see, of course, what's going on in a little bit bigger picture first. And we see, of course, invalidation, right? So basically it is bearish, and here we go. It is taking a new low right now. So invalidation, meaning we're looking for lower there. You go in the 30 second, oh, perfect. It's also invalid. And you have the bearish signal. You go inside more, you see the 10 second, oh, perfect as well. It is bearish, invalidation. And as well, you go to the 5 seconds, you will see bearish and invalidation again. So that's very awesome. Of course, if you have started already to scalp this from the beginning with all these signals, well, it is very clear that it was, of course, a bearish trade there, right? So as a scalping, you want to take over this. And actually, you don't have to take so much here. I mean, it is much more than enough, a 10% from a trade when you scalp to get, of course, a really decent profit. Yeah, because when you scalp, you can put, of course, a leverage for 100x, for example. and choose a very low number. Like you enter with a very low number. Each $1 you enter on 100x means you are entering a trade with $100 value, which is 10%. It gives you already another $1, right? So you add $1, you get already $1 in the opposite with only a single small trade, right? So it's like you double your investment there. So now what do I do with this smaller one? This smaller one, I use it simply, of course, to exactly watch the price inside it very deeply to see, of course, even if we're still looking for lower. And I count, of course, the impulses like 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. It's very close here to be done and finished, and we might push toward the upside even if we have invalidation here. So of course it's gonna be going a little bit lower for wave 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is how I follow it. I try to follow it inside it very deeply, of course, and I try to catch, of course, where the impulse internally is finished and done to exit my trade or to enter a new trade, right? So this is exactly how I use it, and that's why I go very deep. And you still see here, when you see double signal like this, double signal can mean a bottom. Be careful when you see double signal, because it's true that is invalidation. But when you get double signal, and you will get it here as a text, that means, of course, it might be a formation for a bottom very soon here. Okay, especially look at the volume. I put also the volume on the lower time frame here. I start to catch the volume at the same time. When you see, of course, such a high amount of volume, that means, of course, this is a bottom, which is, of course, very close to be an end here for this drop, of course, on the very low micro level. So we might start to see something to push for higher, but of course don't forget to count always. Always count 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Maybe this is your wave 3 because it is the longest, meaning 1, 2, 1, 2 here, 3, 4, and a 5. So you still, of course, need Elliott Wave at the same time to also support your sentiments, support your predictions, and also, of course, be in aligned with, of course, the KGT and the volume. So, of course, it needs some skills here, and that's why, of course, you have to always be attentive with the scalping, and that's why, of course, it's not for everyone to scalp with KGT here. Scalping is specialized for some special people who can be tolerated to sit and watch the price action while scalping. So this is the idea. Now, of course, you don't have to watch it all the time. For me, for example, I start to get used to it. When it is, of course, bearish here, I put it there. I put my percentage 20, 30%, put my take profit there, and I just go to analyze something else, for example. And after that, of course, I still keep an eye on it. Of course, you don't want to reverse. So when it reverses you, for example, when you make a wrong decision here, that means, of course, you have two options. You have to get out with a stop loss, or you have to create a strategy that it can allow you, of course, to add up or to add more entries to recover your entry. So if the price push for higher, for example, then you enter a higher amount and then you bring your entry for higher, and then, of course, it might push down. But of course, you want to do this with coordination here with the indicator when you get a very good signal that is gonna reverse and go in the direction of your trade again. Otherwise, you simply get out. You can simply, of course, make 100 trade per day if you want, and then, of course, recover, guys. So this is the safest way, I would say, and the most healthiest. So better to get out if you want, and never, of course, go with a huge losses. You can simply, if you feel like, okay, it didn't work with the direction, just simply get out. But of course, always give it a little bit of space for the stop loss first, and then, of course, put it there. So as you can see here, we start to get something pushing, of course, for higher, but it's not really that you cannot count on it that it's gonna be very bullish, because it is invalidated on all time frames. So we gotta be careful, but don't forget, as double signals. Yeah, double signals can mean, of course, a bottom here. Don't forget. So it might be, of course, and as you can see, the impulse is finished 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 here. Wave 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and we start to see something pushing toward the upside, right? So when you see double signals, anyway, it's gonna create somehow a strong trend, even if it is corrective. It might push really high, and here we go. And so it might, even if you see, of course, bearish here, that doesn't mean that it cannot push for higher, because of course we have double signal first. They have to be played. And don't forget also here on the 5-second 500 look back, you don't have any signal yet. Yeah, it is only on the 20 look back. It means very, very deep in it. So you cannot take, of course, your position based on the 20 look back. This 20 look back is to get some indication like this one, where we have bottomed. Did we finish the impulse? Okay, so this is where you get inside it, and of course where you can see some reaction. Now when we get here, because you have invalidation here, you might get, of course, higher prices. But with higher prices, now you might get, of course, a bearish signal, yeah, because you're still bearish here, right? And once we get, of course, a signal there as red signal, and if it is still bearish, then here where you want to continue the sell toward the downside, right? Especially, of course, if you get, again, of course, an alignment with the 10-second chart, with the 30-second chart, and so on. Yeah, so as you can see, because now we have the bullish signal on all the chart, I would say even it might be very, very strong push toward the upside. Even it can invalidate, of course, this bearish signal. But not now. What it might happen, let me explain exactly how it turned and reversed to be bullish from invalid to be, of course, bullish. So what it might happen right now, let's say this is, of course, the bottom 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and a 5. You might get a wave 1. Then you will get a wave 2. On the wave 2, the signal that you see here, you're going to get another one, which it might transform to bullish. So this is how the bottom transform to a 1, 2, and then pushing for higher. Yeah, so this is exactly what it might happen. So basically, if we get a 1, 2, then you will get a bullish signal. The bullish signal will be for the wave 3, which is the most explosive and massive. And once the wave 3 takes the high here, you will get a red signal, but it will say invalid. This will stay bearish, but here it will be invalid. Yeah, so why? Because we took the high. The high meaning this high, of course, of the bearish signal. So 1, 2, 3, when the wave 3 takes the high here, then of course it is invalidation. And that means we have switch here to be bullish, of course, and to be much more, much more bullish. And as you can see, as I told you, a double signal on the 20 look back will be, of course, something really strong somehow. It might be a strong correction, or it might be a strong reversal. Yeah, it can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I believe that it is a reversal here. Guess why? You start to count here also on the 1-minute chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. It is a finished diagonal here, or an impulse even can be 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, because wave 4 didn't interfere with the zone 1. As you can see, there is a gap here. And of course, we might be in a finished structure here for 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. However, this structure here looks like 3 ways for me, which is, of course, potential can be a zigzag 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 ending diagonal. And that means you might still get lower, or you are still looking for wave C expanding flat A, B, and a C toward the upside. So yeah, that's why we see, of course, something very strong potentially. So it is, if it is an ABC expanding flat, then we are pushing, of course, for higher. Also, if it is a diagonal here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, mean it's finished and we push for higher. If you are in zigzags, of course, all of it finished ending diagonal, you push for higher as well. In case we are still looking for an ending, small ending diagonal there, okay, it has to push for higher, but be careful. You might get a signal soon when we become bearish again for a wave 5. If not, then it will simply take the high and tells you, okay, the bearish is invalidated. It's time for bullish. Yep, so this is how, of course, I use KGT indicator. I hope that this was helpful enough for you guys. And how do I use it? And to recap, of course, for scalping, it is the most complicated one. You have to, of course, open the 1 minute, the 30 second, the 10 second, and the 5 second time frame at the same time. Compare all of them to see if you have a common signal with all of them. If you don't have a common signal, well, you have to be careful. It might be risky. Okay, so preferably to wait until all these time frames are in confluence within the signal, and like all of them are showing bullish signal, for example. Now, to be much more during your trading or your scalping, to be much more precise, you want to enter, of course, a look back 20 on the 5-second chart, and this is only to catch such a signal in double signals, for example, which is a signal of reversals. And of course, to watch what is going on inside it and count the wave when you finish, of course, and impose there. Then, of course, this will be helpful as well, much more for your predictions. Don't forget risk management, stop loss when it reverses you, meaning get out simply directly. Or, of course, you need a strategy. You need, of course, to have a backup strategy, meaning if it has reversed you, that you can handle a certain amount of losses and then, of course, recover your entry by adding up. You need, of course, to push your margin higher and so on. So this strategy, of course, I mean, you have to find it, of course, by yourself. Find the one that you feel comfortable with it. And of course, I prefer for me the stop loss. Yeah, like it is the safest. If it didn't work for you in scalping, simply just stop it and start a new trade, because of course you can do more and more than what you have lost already. Yep, so this is regarding KGT, the educational video that I promised with. And of course, if you are interested with KGT, you can of course find it on our Patreon membership for the gold membership, which is a lifetime Discord membership. You can of course find it in Patreon, and of course it's one payment when you join Patreon. Then of course once you get in, you get KGT inside our Discord. You can simply switch to free member directly, of course, on Patreon. Yep, so this is how it works. Of course, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and comments. See you in the next one. Bye bye.